6:08, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Welcome on in to your Friday, December 1st. Finally a Friday, finally December 1st, and we finally had the big debate between California Governor Gavin Newsom, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Matthew Hurtt is joining us, our Grassroots political analyst. And Matthew, I want to start off. There's so many great audio bites that I want to play. But I do want to play this one from Ron DeSantis talking about the freedoms in California.
Tried to say that California was the freedom state. I just kind of laugh, like you're locking people down, you're doing all this. But then I thought about it. California does have freedoms that some people don't, that other states don't. You have the freedom to defecate in public in California. You have the freedom to pitch a tent on Sunset Boulevard. You have the freedom to create a homeless encampment under a freeway and even light it on fire. You have the freedom to have an open-air drug market and use drugs. You have the freedom, if you're an illegal alien, to get all these taxpayer benefits. So those are freedoms. They're not the freedoms our founding fathers envisioned, but they have contributed to the destruction of the quality of life in California, and the results speak for themselves. People are leaving the state because they have failed in addressing the homeless population.
And Matthew, I don't know, did you watch the debate? I'm assuming you did. If you're a Republican or a progressive, you had to have watched this debate. What did you think?
I caught a good chunk of it, and Ron DeSantis made some excellent points. I do think that Gavin Newsom, as you and I talked about earlier, was very slick, and he's a very sly guy, but DeSantis makes excellent points here. California is one of the largest economies in the world. However, these failed progressive policies in big cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco are choking, the law-abiding Californian. And there are thousands and thousands of well-meaning people out there who are victims of these failed progressive policies. So excellent point by DeSantis. There were certainly fireworks on stage. I think Hannity did a good job not having an audience and doing this sort of one-to-one. And DeSantis makes an excellent point here.
Now, part of my opening monologue in the five was that the real loser in this debate really is Joe Biden. And the reason for that is because I thought that Gavin Newsom, he was, even though I disagreed with everything that he said, and I've been able to fact check almost everything that he said last night, and I'm going to do that throughout the radio program, I think on the surface, Gavin Newsom clearly is more articulate and sharper than Joe Biden ever has been. And so when you look at the difference between Biden and Gavin Newsom, I think it's clear that Newsom is sharper than Biden. This debate last night really brought that into focus.
Well, and Democrats are running out of time here. If they want to change horses in the middle of this presidential election, they certainly have a deadline in the coming weeks. Some states have already begun their delegate selection process for the Democratic nomination, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to trade out. That said, Newsom did say on stage that he was not running, did not plan to be the party's nominee in 2024.
Yep.
But it's clear that he does have presidential aspirations, and at 58 or 59, he's got a couple of cycles in him to where he can make a decision. So we very well may see presidential aspirant and candidate Gavin Newsom in 2028.
Did Ron DeSantis, look, a lot of people here in Tennessee are Donald Trump supporters. I think DeSantis helped himself, but I don't think that he convinced anyone, because he had a very good night, but I don't think he convinced anyone that he's the guy that should be the nominee over Donald Trump. I don't know if even he would have convinced any Nikki Haley supporters that they should choose him over Nikki Haley. So what did Ron DeSantis do for himself?
Yeah, this debate was months in the making, and in fact agreed upon when DeSantis did look like an early front-runner alternative to Donald Trump. I think that Governor DeSantis' record in Florida is clear. He's been a very successful governor, a very productive, conservative governor with conservative results, and we saw that record on stage last night in sharp contrast to Gavin Newsom's failed policies. DeSantis made some really good points in reacting and responding to the sort of radical gender ideology that's promoted by governors like Newsom and others on the left. He's got a great track record. He made some strong points. I just don't know if this debate was a platform that allowed him to showcase his record as the alternative to Donald Trump. And even Newsom made some pretty good one-liners in regards to who will be the party's nominee in 2024. I think that Ron DeSantis is a solid conservative governor with a great record, but I don't know if this debate helps him in the Republican primary process.
I thought it was interesting, Grassroots political analyst Matthew Hurtt joining us, and I did. I mean, maybe I'm just the only one, but I thought it was interesting that Newsom brought his own little slogan with him.
America in reverse. And
he was talking about what Republicans, he says, what Republicans want to do, rolling back rights and all this kind of stuff. And, it's all a bunch of BS. He talks about he spoke about how Republicans wanted to roll back voting rights and civil rights and LGBTQ rights and all of that stuff.
America in reverse.
Was it bizarre, at least to you? Did it stand out that he sort of brought his own little slogan with him?
It's actually an excellent messaging point. If you think about a candidate or a campaign, you're going to have 2, 3, maybe 4 major overarching themes, right? So for many conservatives, it's faith, freedom, family. For Gavin Newsom here, this concept of America in reverse, he will try to make 3 or 4 points that articulate and show that Republican policies put, quote, America in reverse. It's clever, and it would allow him to, to articulate 2 or 3 or 4 themes. But does that resonate with the average voter, with the average parent whose children are going into a failing school system and coming out, ideologically different or gender different or something like that? I don't know if that resonates with a majority of Americans, but it's certainly a clever point that I think Newsom is going to make throughout 2024 and perhaps into a presidential campaign in the future.
The funny thing is, though, Matthew, is that I can actually identify with wishing for an America in reverse.
America in reverse.
Going right back to the Trump administration when we had secure borders and a better economy and, all the other things that Donald Trump did to actually help the American people. Matthew, one of the things that I wanted to do is play some of this audio. This is the answer, Gavin Newsom's answer, when he was asked about the dangers coming across our southern border.
Joe Biden put out not only a comprehensive plan, he consistently puts up plans. Hold on, but Sean,
is there a risk?
I'm going to answer your question. I support border security. I think the asylum system is broken. I believe that we need.
I understand that.
I'm the only guy here that's a border state governor.
I thought it was interesting when he said, I'm the only guy up here that is a border state governor. If I'm Ron DeSantis, I would have said, I'm the only governor up here who is not a sanctuary state governor, because that has been, to me, one of the big death knells for California is the scourge of illegal immigration. Let me play the rest of the soundbite.
You're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games to try to get some news and attention so you can out-Trump Trump. And by the way, how's that going for you, Ron? You're down 41 points in your own home state. On the issue of immigration, Joe Biden put a $14 billion immigration package up in front of Congress, 2,300 border agents.
I let him go on. Matthew, our time is limited, and he's bloviating. So a couple of things, real quick. When he talks about what Biden did with all of these additional border agents, that was all about processing, about allowing and figuring out a process to allow all of these illegal aliens into our country with little to no vetting. And we do still have the problem of massive amounts of illegal aliens coming into our country. But I also found it interesting when he said, Matthew, that you have Ron DeSantis 41 points down in his home state of Florida. Well, the reality is that Gavin Newsom himself is not doing well in the polling in California. More and more Californians are now disapproving of Gavin Newsom, 49%, than approving, 44%. So Gavin Newsom isn't necessarily one to talk.
Well, and the point here is every state is a border state. Every community is a border community, and it is a humanitarian crisis what this administration, with the help from people like Governor Gavin Newsom, are doing at the border. And it is unconscionable to have something like that going on. Tremendous opportunity for terrorists and foreign threats to enter through the southern border. And it is a dereliction of duty, one of the only or one of the biggest responsibilities of the federal government is to secure the border. And I think, what you said in California, even with as far left as it is, Newsom's popularity is cratering in that state because people have to live with the failed policies, the homeless encampments in big cities, the crime and concern, the open-air drug markets, as DeSantis said. All of these experiments of progressive policies and things that are playing out in communities, and people are tired of it. And I think that the American people would reject a future Newsom candidate for president because of the failed record as governor of California.
Do you think that Newsom is just too slick? I mean, I think we've reached a point with Donald Trump, anyway, where we want our politicians to be a little more human. Gavin Newsom, he's so slick. And what he spews is lies, but he's got that classic politician line, the classic politician smile. He's got the hair gel, the whole thing. I mean, is he just too slick?
I think that this will play out in the minds of voters who are middle of the road. How does he come across to suburban women? How does he come across to the less political voters who aren't as engaged? And there are a couple of times. Look, I look at this all the time in debates and political process. That smile is alarming for those of us in the spin room on the right because it is disarming and it will play well to some of those middle of the road voters. We have to be on the lookout for it, and we have to be able to counter it, or whoever the candidate is, or whatever the communications machine is, has to be able to counter that with the facts and the reality. And the reality is California is on its way to becoming a failed state because of the failed progressive policies advanced by Gavin Newsom.
So if Donald Trump watched that debate, and I know that he is because he's out there criticizing Ron DeSantis, I hope he's taking notes, because even though you have Gavin Newsom saying over and over again, I'm not the candidate, I firmly believe that at some point he may very well be the candidate. If Donald Trump ends up debating Gavin Newsom, I hope that he learned, and I'll let you have the final word on this, but I hope that he learned something about how to deal with and navigate Gavin Newsom, because DeSantis, he did come armed with facts. He came armed with opinion, and he, I thought, handled Newsom very well. Is there anything Donald Trump could learn from that?
Well, certainly Donald Trump is going to be able to cut a couple of ads from last night's debate content. I think that Donald Trump has a delivery style and a stage presence that is radically different than Ron DeSantis. I don't think that Gavin Newsom would be able to counter that on stage. And I think it would be disarming and unsettling for somebody like Gavin Newsom to have to try to contend with the way Donald Trump presents himself on stage. And I think that it could be a positive for Donald Trump. But it remains to be seen. I don't think that Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom will share a stage in 2024. But it's certainly something that will continue to be a thorn in the side of conservatives, is Gavin Newsom's presence on the national stage.
And listen,
we should all be ready for it.
And listen, for 2028, this could very well be the matchup in 2028. We'll have to, of course, all wait and see. 622. Matthew, how can folks find you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter, Matthew Hurtt, MatthewHurtt. Happy to engage with your listeners there.